Hey guys, in this video I'll be comparing 2011 Phil Heath, 2024 Samson Dauda, and 2018 Shawn Rhoden. These are all their first or only Mr. Olympia wins, and I was going to compare Samson to Shawn and Phil individually. However, I thought that a three-man comparison would be even more interesting. To score this comparison, I'm going to give the winner of each pose 1 point, second place 2, and third place 3, with the lowest final score placing the highest. Do let me know in the comments who you have winning and who you think is the most dominant physique. And if you enjoy my videos, a like and sub would be awesome. With that all being said though, let's get into this comparison. The front double is a real toss-up between these three competitors. Phil brings some incredible separation and a dense development, easily having the best, most proportional arms. That said, he is the narrowest competitor, giving up a lot of width to both Samson and Shawn. Samson looks great, being pound for pound the heaviest guy here, and his X-frame is incredible as well. Although his waist may be relatively the widest, his frame is just incredibly wide, and his massive limbs compensate and create a very nice flow. Now, Shawn clearly has the smallest midsection and a great V-taper to match, along with razor-sharp conditioning throughout his entire physique. He's also the flattest in areas like the outer quads, arms, and even the chest, which does make him a bit less competitive from a size standpoint. I really do like his shape and aesthetic flow, however, compared to Samson and Phil, he does look a bit underwhelming. Now, between Samson and Phil, I'd probably go with Phil. Although he is slightly more narrow, his arms are amazing and the quads are just as big as Samson's, but on a smaller frame. If anything, Phil looks more separated, thinner skinned, and fuller at a shorter height, which makes him look even better. Samson is great, however, he needs more bicep peak and arm separation to really push Phil. The front lat spread, unlike the rear double, really exposes Phil's lack of width. You can see this when comparing him to the broader Samson and Shawn, who both are far more proportional in their upper bodies. Apart from the width, I'd actually have Phil winning in areas like the arms, delts, calves, and forearms. However, these muscle groups are insignificant in this pose. Now, between Samson and Shawn, I'd say that it's a toss-up between fullness and razor-sharp detail. Samson is undeniably fuller in the legs, chest, and arms. However, that added fullness is also noticeable in the washed-out midsection. In contrast, Shawn has a great controlled waistline. However, he doesn't pop as much in the chest, arms, or outer quad. If I'm being honest though, I prefer Shawn's overall look because his insertions, especially the lats, are far more favorable in this shot. His upper body looks statuesque with zero flaws, whereas Samson definitely has areas he needs to work on. For that reason, I would go with Shawn in first, Samson in second, and Phil in third. The side chest is another toss-up between these three, with each bringing very unique packages to the table. Phil is so dense and 3D in this shot, looking just as big as Samson, who probably outweighs him by 50 pounds, yet possesses more intricate lines and separation. Samson, while not as dialed in as the other two when it comes to conditioning, has the most aesthetically pleasing flow, with his old-school posing style highlighting his thickly padded chest, wide upper body, and massive side leg. Shawn is once again extremely flat, yet he has an almost incomprehensible amount of detail in his side leg. He's not that thick in the chest or arm, however, the details are really mind-blowing. All three look great, however, I can see this one as an objective win for Phil due to his superb combination of thickness, fullness, and detail. Samson and Shawn are neck and neck though, and like the front lat spread, it's a battle between fullness and condition. Personally, Samson draws my attention due to his superior posing and fullness, whereas Shawn looks a bit closed off and scrunched in. He, maybe if he had posed better, I'd say he probably could have taken second place over Samson. However, as it is, I would choose Samson for second and Shawn for third, with Phil taking this pose. The rear double should be a no-brainer because Phil runs away with this pose. He utterly destroys Shawn here and schools Samson in the conditioning aspect. Look, I love Shawn and Samson's physique just as much as any other fan. However, as an objective critic, I've got to say that Phil is really doing too much. He's dense, detailed, conditioned, and fully developed, having literally zero flaws. Even his lack of width isn't an issue because he's clearly just more dense, and the sheer thickness that he carries is just too much for the other two. Now, Samson is actually comparable in overall size, having similar mass in the back, legs, and arms. However, it does appear as if he has a slight film of water across his entire physique. This is his main flaw because if he was just as conditioned as Phil, he would probably win this pose. He's definitely doing enough to overpower Shawn though, whose back is very shallow and underdeveloped, and has just enough separation in the hamstrings and glutes to get that second place. The rear lat spread is the same story as the last pose, with Phil clearly, clearing the other two very easily. That said, his lack of width is more apparent in this pose, as he gives up considerable size to Samson in the lats. However, the detail and phenomenal development really obscure his narrowness. Now, what Phil did to Samson is basically what Samson does to Shawn, with Samson easily winning against him due to the back development disparity. Don't get me wrong, Shawn has a great lower body with some great calves, hamstrings, and glutes. However, his lower back and general width are not anything special. He's the weakest upstairs, and for this reason, he does unfortunately find himself in third place. The side tricep is a surprisingly close shot between these three, as I had a feeling that Phil would run away with this pose. I thought this because Phil has one of the best triceps of all time, and the combination of perfect insertions, 3D pop, and great conditioning is normally unbeatable. That said, Samson and Shawn both present pretty impressive renditions of this pose, making this more of a battle than I would have thought. Samson is arguably just as good as Phil in the tricep, has a more pleasing side leg presentation, and that trailing calf adds a nice artistic touch to the pose. Shawn looks nearly perfect everywhere apart from the tricep, with him having the best positioned and most conditioned side leg here, along with a great midsection to match. Unfortunately, though, I do think that his complete lack of a tricep is a very glaring flaw and makes him lose a lot of ground, which places him in a default third. He's also flatter than the other two, with his only strength being his condition and obviously the shape as well. Between Samson and Phil, it is really a 50-50. I could see the argument for both because neither look any more conditioned than the other, nor any fuller or flatter. I personally prefer Samson though because he is taller and poses more effectively. However, Phil's slight advantages in the tricep could sway the judges in another direction. I'd go with Samson though because I really do admire his posing and shape. However, it could just as easily go to Phil as well. The Aban Thigh is surprisingly a very good shot for all three, and I say this because Samson and Phil were never really known for having stellar Aban Thigh poses. That said, Phil at the beginning of his reign was really competitive in this shot, having a nice midsection, incredible quads, and a good taper. His usual narrowness is still very evident, especially next to a guy like Samson or Shawn, and he would probably end up in third place because of it. However, he really is not bad by any means. Like I said though, his abs and his overall width are the worst, so he unfortunately would place third. Now, Shawn and Samson both look great, however, I think that it should be pretty obvious who comes out on top. I've always felt that the slightly leaner, more streamlined guy always fares better in this shot, which makes sense because a small waist and a great structure are very much championed. Shawn really does embody that sentiment, possessing the smallest waist, with great details as well, completely feathered quads, and, just an impressive V-taper all around. Samson looks great in his own right, and he really improved this pose at the Olympia. However, he's a bit worse in the midsection and the taper compared to Shawn. Sure, he might be wider than Shawn and does have larger quads. However, this really isn't enough to win because Shawn's shape is far superior. The most muscular is the last shot, and in this one I think it is rather obvious who is placing third. Shawn would be that competitor because he is the most lackluster in the arms and in the overall size. Unlike the Aban Thigh, the most muscular crowns the competitors with the freakish wow factor, and Shawn really doesn't have that. His arms and chest look small relative to his delts, and he doesn't bring that necessary size. He's undeniably conditioned though and looks shredded to the bone. However, you do need more than conditioning to win here. Between Phil and Samson, I would say that Phil surprisingly wins by a hair. Look, Phil has the best arms, delts, and legs in my opinion. However, Samson really does match him in size in almost every area and is taller. I do prefer Samson's chest and quads in this pose due to their better proportions, and I could see how some would reward Samson in this pose and give him the win. Still, Phil is the GOAT for a reason in this pose, with the combination of his three-dimensional arms, delts, and chest being untouchable. While it is close, I do see this one being a win for Phil, with Samson in second place and Shawn in third. Alright guys, that's it for this comparison. I had this one ending with a win for Phil with 13 points, Samson in a close second with 15, and Shawn in third place with 20. I'm honestly not surprised that Samson beat Shawn because Samson outsized him in a lot of the poses and wasn't badly conditioned at all. In the end, Phil was obviously the winner, with his 2011 package being one of the best of all time. However, Samson's ability to keep up should not be underplayed. Let me know in the comments though if you guys agree with the outcome of this comparison and who you had winning in the end. Anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed this comparison, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.